What?
No! No!
Oh my God. Israel Adesanya has lost his mind again. As far as most UFC fans are concerned, Israel Adesanya has become cringe once again after, surprising everybody by knocking Alex Pereira out in brutal, cold fashion. He jumped straight into the octagon after the Dricus Du Plessis fight versus, Robert Whitaker.
Brother right here. Let's go, nigga. What's up, bitch?
To deliver some of the cringiest lines the MMA fans claim they've heard in recent memory or in recent history. Repeatedly calling Driccus the N-word and basically racially baiting Driccus into proving his Africanness right there and then. And Driccus realizing that this was a losing war. As far as I was concerned, this was a losing war for Driccus, both inside the octagon and outside the octagon, but more so outside the octagon, given the backlash he might face or the actual consequences he might actually face if he had gone with Izzy's racial baiting. Now, for many fans, like I said, they're already jumping out of the window, saying so many things, how Izzy is cringe, how, he blah, 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 how he should be ashamed to be using, racial baiting, how Driccus is actually a South African, farmer, and how a lot of things. But I want to take us back a little bit in time. Or rather, for one, Driccus, before now, wanted to fight Israel Adesanya. And Israel said, well, I'm open to the fight. I want the fight. Let's get it done if you can get past Robert Whitaker. But then Driccus went as far as saying that Israel is not African enough, that he is the only African in the UFC. That is him, Dricus Du Plessis, that he is the only African in the UFC.
I'm the African fighter in the UFC. I'm the African fighter in the UFC.
That even Francis Ngannou, that had to cross the Sahara Desert 6 times or 7 times to make it to Europe, is not African enough. Kamaru Usman, who looks, breathes, lives, acts, talks basically as a Nigerian, just because he's abroad, that he's not in Nigeria, Driccus says he's not African enough. Israel Adesanya, whose parents had him in Nigeria and he lived in Nigeria for a while, he's not Nigerian enough as far as Driccus is concerned. So Driccus started the racial baiting, and he should have known what he was getting himself into by putting himself in a position where he could give another person the opportunity to now use reverse, racism on him. Of course, in this modern era, a lot of fans are of the opinion, a lot of people in general are of the opinion that you're just supposed to forget about your history, you're supposed to forget about the fact that slavery happened, you're just supposed to forget about the fact that some people actually came to the African continent and enslaved people. You understand? So, regardless, you're just supposed to forget about it and turn the other cheek and act like it never happened in the spirit of forgiveness, right? So, Driccus shouldn't have brought up that idea of trying to prove who is more African than the other and just kept it fight-wise, just kept the fight about the fight. But then he had to do that on his own part for marketing. He had to do it to put his name out there in the hat, because if you want to look at it convincingly, he really hasn't beaten anybody up until now that he just beat Robert Whitaker. He really hasn't proven himself. It's not like he has been around long enough. You understand? But that was the faster way, or the fastest way he could get to Israel Adesanya, which is what he wanted in the first place. So I want to explain something to people that might not understand. Nigeria is a country of 200 million people population, or even more. There might be more because last time the census was done, nobody knows exactly what the figures are right now. But as I speak to you right now, a lot of Nigerians are still departing Nigeria. As I speak to you right now, doing anything they can. Do you know what it means? Especially if you're an American listening to this, or you're from Canada listening to this. Do you know what it means to leave America and trek all the way across the most, let's say, a 5,000-mile distance with no water, no food, just trying to cross into another country where you think there's a better opportunity of life for you? Just imagine it. Most of you cannot imagine it, can you? Most people cannot imagine it, because your country is good, your country is nice, your country is a place where every other person in the world wants to come to. You understand? But as a Nigerian operating this podcast, I'm here to tell you that it is not the same for a Nigerian. In Nigeria, there are not enough opportunities in Nigeria for Nigerians to actually get everything they want and live a good life in Nigeria. That's why people like Francis Ngannou, people like Kamaru Usman, people like Israel Adesanya, that's why either them or their parents had to do anything they could to leave the African continent because the opportunities are just not enough. So, and this is not me trying to appeal to your sentimental side. This is just me telling the truth as it is. You understand? So when you turn around and say someone is not African enough, and meanwhile, the history of white people in South Africa is apartheid, is slavery, is racism. Now, it's nobody's fault that Driccus is born to one of them. Now, that's nobody's fault. But to turn around and then say those whose parents were born and brought up in Africa and lived the African life and went through the ethnic, biological, social, psychological, emotional tortures of being in a continent where there were just not enough opportunities for everybody to thrive, and then took their children abroad, or like in the case of Francis Ngannou, had to use his own strength to travel across the Sahara Desert for how many months? He got to the Spanish border, they sent him back again, he went again, they sent him back again. How many times? Before even that, you have to ask yourself, what kind of suffering would a person want to be running from, or is a person running away from, that will make them leave the comfort of their own house and travel thousands of miles to make it into another country? So it's an insult to even suggest that these people are not black enough. It's an insult to even suggest that these people, they don't have what it takes to be an African just because they are training abroad and they're not in Nigeria. Meanwhile, as we speak, like I said, you find people from Nigeria, people whose parents all the way back to however long you can trace their ancestry were Nigerians. You find them today as I speak to you doing anything to gain visa, doing anything to make sure that visa applications are successful, doing anything to gather the money to travel, doing anything to leave Nigeria or leave any African country that you can think of. South Africa, things, because they got their independence late, a lot of things are sort of well arranged. Aside from the fact that they have xenophobia going on and all that, between the indigenes and the people that they believe came to take their jobs, which is another thing. In Nigeria, there are no jobs. Nigerians travel abroad to go and look for jobs. In South Africa, there are no jobs. South Africans, they turn around and attack the foreigners in their country for taking away their jobs. This is just me giving you a little bit of, backstory, because I know no other channel on YouTube might give you this story the way I'm giving it to you. So I'm just here to let you know the reality. So back to the Israel Adesanya and Du Plessis situation. Now, I don't know how this is going to turn out or play out in the octagon. I don't know who is going to win if they fought. Israel Adesanya predicted that Du Plessis was going to knock Whitaker out in the second round, which is exactly what happened. So, in my own opinion, I think that Israel punked Du Plessis. I think that Israel punked Du Plessis right there and right then in the octagon. Because I think that Du Plessis realized that he had talked himself into a tight corner. Because there is no way he could verbally reply Israel. You understand? And then his only way out was to play victim and act like he was not the one that instigated this entire thing from the beginning. So that was his only way out, to act as if, this guy is now racially baiting me, and I didn't even call for this. I never mentioned anything concerning race.
But the fact that as a
I never
tell me who the fuck I am,
that this person's
that pissed me off. That's why he's my next fight.
Francis or Kamaru, I never implied that they are not African enough. That's exactly what he was trying to do. And for me, if you say something and you can't back it up when you're face to face with the person you talked about, you can't back it up verbally, and you can't even back it up physically. Because, for instance, you're the person that just fought, you just won a fight, and someone jumps into the octagon trying to steal your moment. You're ready to go right there and then. Am I wrong? You're ready to go right there and then. But Du Plessis was not ready to go. He was not even ready to fight over it right there and then. He was not ready to, get up in Izzy's space. He allowed Izzy talk down on him and talk all over him. And now he cannot play the victim as far as I'm concerned, because you're the person who unprovokedly, nobody provoked you into saying anything. You just wanted to fight so bad that you had to promote it on the grounds that you were more African than those whose both parents and whose ancestral lineage is entirely full of Africans. So, once again, this is the Boiling Ring. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe.